today we're going to be reviewing the American Revolution, but before we get started, I want to have a little tug of war if that's okay with y'all. So I need 5 volunteers. Okay, you 3, and then Sarah, and then I need 1 more, Johanna. So for our tug of war, I need Megan and Laura to stand on this side, and Jewel come over here. And then Sarah, I want you to be on this side. So you're going to stand off to the side for a minute, and Johanna's going to stand off to the side with you. And so this is how we're going to start our tug of war. Now, looking at it right now, which side do you think is going to win? Jewel or Megan and Laura?
Megan and Laura.
Why do you guys think Megan and Laura is going to beat Jewel?
Because there's more.
Right, there's more. Why don't we just try it to see how it goes, okay? Be gentle. On your mark, get set, go. All right, you can stop. All right, so like y'all predicted, this side won because they had more people. But how about this time we add Sarah, Johanna, and I to help Jewel. So just try and get a part of the rope. Sorry about that.
We got this.
All right, so now looking at it, which side do you think will win?
No.
Why us?
There's more.
Right, there's more of us. Let's try this, okay? On your mark, get set, go. Okay, good job, guys. You can go have a seat now. Now, when we did this, what did it look like originally was going to happen? The first trial, what happened? Did y'all think this side was going to win or that side? That side. But as more people gathered on this side had a greater advantage, right? This is a very similar example to the American Revolution. When it first started off in the war, it looked like Britain was going to win because they were a higher power compared to America. But as the war continued, America gained more advantages, which caused their win. So today we're going to be discussing the 2 sides of the war, and we're going to do a brief overview of the war as well. Okay, to start off with, we're going to talk about the colonists' advantages. Can anyone think of what advantage the colonists might have had? Yes, Jewel?
It was on their home grounds.
Right, it was on their home grounds. Or like I like to think of it, it was on their home territory. They knew how to get around in the colonies. Like they could easily go from each colony to one another. They knew secret passageways that the British didn't know as well. And they knew like how they could easily fight. They used guerrilla warfare tactics, which is where they would just fire really quickly and then they would run away instead of just full open battle, because it applied more to their home territory. And this is an advantage that the colonists had. Now on the other side, the British, what would be a disadvantage due to that home territory thing?
They had to go to the farm. They didn't have supplies.
Right. They were not in their home territory. And because of this, they weren't able to get supplies over as quickly, troops. They couldn't relay orders as quickly from like King George III, who was the ruler of England at the time. So they couldn't tell their troops what they wanted them to do, or if like they were short on supplies or troops, they couldn't get there fast enough. So we're going to do a brief overview of the American Revolution. And does anyone have any questions about any of the stuff I just went over? No questions? We're good? Okay, great. So the American Revolution. So when we last left off in America, they were starting to get angry. Does anyone remember why they were getting angry? They had taxes. Were there any big like massacres or anything you can think of? Or what they considered? Yes? The Boston Massacre. They felt like they were being persecuted by the British, and they didn't like that. So as a result, they decided, hey, we don't like this. We need to get something done. So the First Continental Congress met, and they were like, hey, we can maybe try and send a plea to Britain and maybe get out of this. And so they tried to come up with it, and they're like, we're going to wait a year. Maybe things will improve by then. Does anyone think things improved, or did they get worse? Yeah, they got worse. More taxes were placed upon the colonists, so they decided to fight back. And so no one knows what happened, but the very first battle and first shots of the American Revolution were fired at Lexington and Concord in 1775. And so that battle, it didn't turn out too good for the American or the British. It was just kind of a draw. And so for the first bit of the war, it seemed like no one was really going to win. or the colonists weren't winning. They weren't doing that as well. They had gone up at Bunker Hill, and they were pretty much annihilated there. It didn't go very well. And then things just started getting worse. They had Valley Forge. Does anyone know what Valley Forge happens, the winter at Valley Forge? So when you hear winter, what do you think? Winter, sorry. Cold. Do you need to have good supplies to stay warm? Well, during this time, the colonists, they didn't have a lot of supplies. Remember we talked about that? So at the winter at Valley Forge, they were cold. They didn't have food to keep them fed and well nourished. And that was a large problem because it was just degrading their army. So when the people realized this, they're like, oh, we have to do something or we're going to completely lose to Britain and it's going to be worse than when we originally started, right? So as a result, they're like, we have to organize first. We can't fight as Georgia and Massachusetts. We have to be together. We have to be one united force. And as a result of this, the Second Continental Congress was formed. And it was like our first temporary government of the United States. And from this, they were able to come up with the Declaration of Independence. Does anyone know what that was? Right? They were saying, hey, you've done this, 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 and this against us, and we don't want to stand for that anymore. So we're pretty much going to break away from Britain and be our own country. So they came up with that. And they also organized war efforts, because previously it had just been all those militias going out and shooting one at a time, right? Well, now they grouped everyone together, and by doing that, they were able to keep them all ordered, and they came up with a new general, General George Washington of the Continental Army. And by doing this, they could have coordinated attacks, and then it would be better, right? And so by organizing, do you think this helped the colonies or harmed them? Right, it helped them because they were able to see, hey, we need to do this, this, and this in order to accomplish a task. And so by doing this, they began to get later successes, such as at the Battle of Saratoga, where they were actually able to defeat the British. And by proving to other powers, such as France, that they could beat the British in a battle, it helped gain the French entry into the war. And by coming in, as we saw in our tug of war, when more people joined, who won? Right, the side with more people. Because when the French came in, they brought more supplies, more soldiers, all of that. And that really helped the colonists to overpower the British. And by doing that, a few years later, in 1781, the colonists were finally able to win at the Battle of Yorktown, where the British surrendered by General Cornwallis, and American victory was heard. So does anyone have any questions over our overview? Okay. We're going to go into more detail later in the week over each of these battles so we can see what it looked like in statistics. But right now, if you could you write a brief summary of our lesson today, and we're going to play a game in just a minute, okay? So we're going to play a little game where I have two lightsabers, and what you're going to do is we have it where I'll say a question like, which side had the greater advantage at the beginning of the war? And who was that? The British. What you will do is you will look on the board for that term, and you will race to put your lightsaber there. And whoever gets their lightsaber to that point first will win a point. Now, if you accidentally push someone, or if you get it wrong, you will automatically forfeit the point to the other team. But say you get it wrong, the other team will get a chance, okay? So go ahead and line up. Ready? Yeah. Where was the first shot to the American Revolution fired at?
You have the wrong one.
No,
you were right.
No, all right, who was the first person to go in each line? Oh, Caitlin. Last one. Okay. This was the term that colonists were known as. Yes.
What?
Patriot.
Oh, really?
Yes. Patriot. All right, good job, guys. I'll take your lightsabers. And so the winner was Team Awesome. So y'all will be receiving 5 points extra credit on your next quiz, and Team Awesomer will receive 3 points extra credit. So good job, guys. And so for next time, I'd like you to read chapter 13 of your textbook, and we'll come back and review the American Revolution in its full entirety. Great, thank you.